What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Last night, Nintendo should have put out their information for their past fiscal quarter, which would have covered their holiday sales, as well as, well, how well Pokemon did overall, Sword and Shield. So we'll go over that later on today, so look out for a video kind of explaining and going down all of that. And then we might even see some announcements from Nintendo, possibly, during any briefing they put out for investors. So we'll keep an eye on that, see if any dates change or anything like that. Today, though, we have some interesting stuff to go over with Stadia. Stadia's been, well, it's been kind of all over the place, right? Well, now looks like we've gotten to the point where even its own community on Reddit and other places are just straight up starting to turn on Stadia, wondering if it's even worth renewing the service, because that is coming up. We'll go over all of that and even Stadia's response at this point. It's a whole thing there. And then also, we're going to talk a little bit about Microsoft with their own fiscal quarter, and Phil Spencer kind of teasing what the initiative's working on, and they might be bringing something back from the past. As always, guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. I appreciate you guys doing that. Like I said, over the past month or so, it has helped out quite a bit. And if you're new here, make sure you subscribe down below with the red button and the bell icon on. That way you can stay up to date with all of the gaming news going on in the gaming world. We're going to start today with Phantasy Star Online 2. Of course, we'll be able to play it next week in closed beta. Make sure you're signed up for that. If you haven't, Xbox Insider's app, go do that now. Get signed up. And it looks like they did put quite a bit of work into this one. You can see this on Twitter here, where they say Phantasy Star Online 2 will feature full English voice acting. Choose between English and the original Japanese voices at any time. They also say they will have subtitles, all of that as well. It does seem like they put quite a bit of work into this one. I'm sure there's quite a bit to voiceover and also translate and everything as well. This is still crazy to me, by the way, to see this one. It doesn't appear to be something that they are just quickly moving over. It looks like they've taken their time and spent quite a bit of work getting all of this done. It's really exciting to see this actually take place after what's felt like forever at this point. Again, Microsoft being the one doing this, and we'll see what happens when it goes in the closed beta next week. Hopefully it's all really smooth, and then we can move into maybe an open beta or just a full-on release. Also, I talked about Ring Fit before in a video where we took it apart and kind of checked out how it worked completely. And remember, we saw it had like the flex sensor inside so it could tell when you're actually moving the ring together. Otherwise, though, everything else is handled by that Joy-Con controller. Well, a person on YouTube, as you can see here, with the name Super Luis 64, actually decided to make it compatible with Breath of the Wild, which is absolutely insane. Having to move by running in place, you have to even pause the game by squatting down. Seriously, it looks like a workout just to get across any part of the map, and they're even being able to fight different monsters stuff around them just using that ring. This is a cool idea. I don't think Nintendo will ever really have any kind of functionality outside of Ring Fit Adventure, although I guess you never know. Labo did get kind of worked into things like Mario Kart, but that was much more straightforward, as of course it had the wheel and the pedals. This took a bit of adapting to make it work, but what a neat idea. I like the ingenuity here figuring all of this out, and you should go check out the video to see what I'm talking about, because it does look like a lot of work just to do the smallest things in the game. Also, we had recently talked about Silent Hill and Konami. It appeared that there were rumors going around that would take place, and then other places corroborated it. It appears that Konami's doing something, and a representative from Konami seems to have kind of confirmed it at this point to PC Games N, saying, "We cannot share anything at this point, but we are listening to customer feedback and considering ways to provide the next title," that is referring to Silent Hill. And to hear it from Konami just straight up, it is strange that they wouldn't have just said, "No, that's not true. We're not doing anything with that right now." Well, outside of those pachinko machines, you should go check those out as soon as you can. It seems like they actually are talking about Silent Hill coming back in some way as an actual game, we'll say. Something that doesn't have to do with gambling, straight up an actual game. Now, we've seen Metal Gear Survive, not too thrilled with that one. We've seen Contra, not too thrilled with the most recent one. So if they do Silent Hill, I hope they do look around at feedback and actually come up with something that is worth playing and that is really good, because that is a fandom that you don't want to mess with too much. So we'll see what they come up with, but it does sound like they are looking into Silent Hill, and you know what? They probably already have one in development, and we'll see if we get any kind of reveal at any time this year. And guys, some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start with Google Stadia. We've talked about Stadia at length at times. Not the greatest right now. There's a lot of question marks around this service. mostly why. That seems to be the biggest thing there. And for a time, when it first came out, people were actually still pretty excited with it. They liked the service. It looked like Google was going to have some support for it, and things were going to, start to pick up into this new year. Well, it appears that even places that were very, very excited while people were asking questions, right? They were more interested in Stadia than other people, specifically their own subreddit, is kind of turning a bit. And it has a lot to do with Google Stadia just kind of going quiet. Now that we have had an update from them very, very recently, and we'll talk about that, but this is actually the post over on Reddit, and it says Stadia has officially gone 40 days without a new game announcement / release, feature update, or real community update. It has been out for 69 days. It's time we demand better. Now that everyone's renewal date is approaching, which is very important, by the way, I think it's time we outline the issues, borrowing from another post of mine from a couple weeks ago, and attempt to get some sort of response from the Google team that inspires more confidence than what we've seen so far. That post at this time has received 9,000 upvotes and a ton of little rewards and stuff at the top there, little badges. They go over everything that is currently an issue, missing, or ways they could improve it, which is constructive. Like, it was a good post. And then Google Stadia, their community manager, actually came in and said, "Hey everyone, thanks for taking the time to write out your thoughts, and don't worry, I'll make sure this post doesn't get removed. All the concerns you've brought to the table are completely valid, and I understand where your frustrations are coming from. Nobody likes to be left in the dark. While I don't have product updates to share right at this second, I can promise you that I have been and will continue taking feedback posted to Stadia and other channels like the Stadia Community Forum. Back to the Stadia team, as always, thanks for your patience. Keep these notes coming. I'll be jotting them down as they come in." Strange that they said that the post wouldn't get removed. I don't really know why a fairly constructive post there would get removed. Anyway, from there, the other day, actually just after that post, which again, interesting, went up, we got this update on their Stadia website, and you could see that they named both Guilt and Metro Exodus as new free games for Google Stadia Pro, which of course is what everyone who has purchased basically Google Stadia now is on. There is no free version yet, but while Guilt is a pretty interesting game, I will say, and to put it on its pro service is pretty cool, and Metro Exodus is a very good game. I'm curious how well that actually would work with Google Stadia, and some of the input latency that you see there. And well, that game's fairly, there's a lot of dark parts in the game, right? So you see a lot of deep blacks around the edges, and that's usually where you see compression. Curious about the image quality on that one. But yeah, Stadia, it's coming up on the renewal date. That would be in February. That's when people have to decide, should I actually pay in money for this going forward? Because remember when we bought the Chromecast Ultra and the controller for $130, part of that was a 3-month subscription to Stadia Pro. And there's no free option right now. So if you don't pay that subscription fee of $10 per month, you're just not going to play it. And if you've already purchased games on there, straight up, you're not going to play them then. That starts to kind of get into the weak point of it. If they're not compelling enough as a service, you kind of lose out on any games that you have purchased at any time, which is why I think being a rental service makes way more sense. Like an actual rental service, not a front like, oh, you're buying these games, but you're technically not, you're actually renting them. I mean like an actual like pay $5 and you get this game for like 48 hours kind of rental service, like Redbox, without having to actually leave the house to go get the game. I mean, seriously, that subreddit was like one of the last big backers of Stadia, like that was more apologetic than everywhere else. It's like, oh, I'm really enjoying this. But it seems like even now, just enough time has kind of passed where it does look like Google is just not as interested in Stadia. There needs to be some pretty big changes. They've kind of talked about it before, right? Where they say they're going to really pursue some timed exclusives, but they haven't really shown anything or taken action yet, right? That's the biggest thing here. And you know what? I've lost quite a bit of confidence in Stadia since it released. When it works, but really, to sell something, you got to have compelling software. That's number one, right? You got to have games. That is the way it is. And Stadia really doesn't have anything that makes me go, well, I need to go get Stadia. I got to pay the money for it. Destiny 2 was their big thing, and xCloud just threw that on their closed beta like it was nothing. Like they were just like, oh yeah, Destiny 2 alongside 20 other games, right? And it's like, whoa, why does xCloud have almost 100 games and Stadia has what, 30? 20 or 30? Like, what's going on here? Basically, they probably should have just been a lot more clear that what this is a paid closed beta and not really a retail release. A lot of work to do on Stadia's part, and honestly, if they can't turn things around, I would say by the end of this year, it's probably going to be the end of Stadia, but we'll have to see. Next up, let's talk about Xbox and the Initiative. The Initiative, of course, is Microsoft Studio that they pretty much built from the ground up, brought in some very good talent, including Sony Santa Monica, even like a lot of people who have a lot of talent in the video game industry creating games is a part of that studio now, and they continue to hire as they work towards their big project, their big game. And a lot of people have wondered, what are they making? We kind of have some theories, and there was the thought of them just doing a new IP. However, as we get more and more hints, even with this latest one, it appears that they are grabbing something from Microsoft's, we'll say, vault of IPs that they have, because they do have quite a few that just aren't being used right now, like, at all. So this is actually what Phil tweeted out. He said, "Great update today with D. Gallagher and Matt Booty and the team at the Initiative. Incredibly talented studio challenging themselves to do new things and old things," with a smiley face there, "in new ways." And immediately people looked at this and said, well, does that mean that the Initiative is going to be using an older game, an older IP, an older intellectual property? And my thought is, yeah, they probably are. They're probably grabbing something from the vault, like I said, from Microsoft. Remember, they've picked up quite a bit of stuff with Rare, right? So they have some things they could pull from. And the biggest frontrunner now that everyone seems to think that they are working on is Perfect Dark. And I look at that and I say, you know what, that would make sense, right? Perfect Dark, first-person shooter, that seems to work out fairly well with Microsoft and the Xbox brand and its audience. And they could, of course, drive more story into that with the Perfect Dark universe, and that would be really cool. I think that series could really really needs a bit of redemption after Perfect Dark Zero, which was not good. So that would be really, really cool to see. Or maybe they'll just renew the trademark and we get Blinks back. Can you imagine having all of that talent work on Blinks? That would be amazing. That would be amazing. Let's just do that. Let's go with Blinks Time Sweeper 3 and come up with a title for that one. Actually, you know what? I would like to see Perfect Dark, but let me know if you have any old IPs from Microsoft that they currently own that you would like to see the Initiative with, like I said, big-time talent work on. Next up, let's talk about games with gold and PlayStation Plus for the month of February. We'll kind of go back and forth and compare them a bit. I think one definitely has the edge over the other this month coming up in February, but let's take a look starting with Xbox games with gold. As you can see, they put out a little trailer for it, and we have TT Isle of Man that's available February 1st to the 29th on the Xbox One. Then we have Call of Cthulhu that is available February 16th to the 15th of March on the Xbox One. Fable Heroes, that's from the 1st of February to the 15th of February. That is on Xbox One and 360, of course. And then Star Wars Battlefront, the original Battlefront, which is awesome, by the way. That might be the best game on this list, and that's an original Xbox game. February 16th to the 29th, and that, of course, works on your Xbox One or your Xbox 360 on that one, although I recommend firing up in the Xbox One, as it, I think, gets a little bit of a benefit from the stronger system there, but not the best games with gold month, I would say, looking at that. Like I said, Battlefront's awesome. If you've never played it, it's there. Download it and try it out. I still think it's a lot of fun. I still think it holds up, although Battlefront 2 is better, I would say. But let's jump over here to PlayStation Plus for February, take a look what they have. So starting February 4th, you'll be able to download BioShock The Collection, which is outstanding, by the way. That's 3 BioShock games that you can play through. BioShock 1, 2, and Infinite. Remember, we heard that there was trademark for the Switch, or rating for the Switch as well, so most likely that's going to show up there. But to see it here at PlayStation Plus is awesome. That is a great value. Then they're also doing The Sims 4, which is also pretty interesting. Again, there are people who really, really enjoy The Sims, and there you go, The Sims 4, available on February 4th through PlayStation Plus. Firewall Zero Hour, that is a PlayStation VR game, which is pretty neat, but I think the biggest one here is definitely the BioShock Collection. That is amazing to have that pop up there, and yeah, I look at this and I say, I think this is PlayStation Plus's month over that. Sure, they have Battlefront over there at the Xbox, but one of the titles here, the BioShock Collection, is amazing. Like, it's such a good value, and I think most people should check it out. If you have never played BioShock, there does appear to be another BioShock game that's currently in the works now. I don't know when it'll be revealed, but the collection is top-notch, and I think people should check that one out. The first BioShock game is still one of my favorite experiences ever. When that came out on the 360, it was astounding. I'll say that. When you play through it and you check it out and there's the big twist at the end, go check that one out. At least play through the first one. The second one was okay. I liked Infinite as well, but definitely the first one was massive for gaming. I would go check that out. But hey, good month for PlayStation Plus. Okay for Xbox Live games with gold, but check them out. They'll be available next month. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Microsoft's past fiscal quarter. That, of course, would have been the 3 months prior to January that they're reporting on. So that'd be October, November, and December. Big quarter, of course, for the holidays. And it looks like Microsoft as a company did great. Of course, their cloud services are up. Even their Surface stuff is up fairly well, although they seem to still not be too happy with it. In general, they want to make some changes here going forward to seemingly just make it more efficient, or they didn't really elaborate on how they were going to do it, but they seem to want more out of that Surface lineup, despite it now being a $2 billion venture, so it seems like they're doing pretty well there in revenue. In fact, pretty much everything across the board was good except for gaming. It does appear that from the previous quarter, so the year before, it's actually down quite a bit. And you know what? I kind of expect this. I think we all do, right? The Series X isn't out to the end of the year. We know it's coming. And most people, trust me, I've talked to some people here on YouTube, and even if their Xbox broke or whatnot, or even if there's some games that they're looking at, they're like, I could play that. That'd be fun on the Xbox. They're not really interested in buying one because the Series X coming out at the end of the year, and I understand that completely. But let's take a look at what happened here. So the biggest thing here is that while they did lose, they're actually down 21% in a decline in gaming revenues. That's down over $900 million. The biggest thing is that they had a 43% drop for hardware revenue. That is massive, by the way. Now, their content and services revenue also dropped 11% year over year, but that 43% hurts badly. That is definitely what dragged them down. And like I said, it makes sense. A lot of people are just flat out waiting. And keep in mind, the Xbox One had some ridiculous sales, right, over the holidays. So some of those systems just were not selling for what they were the year prior. I mean, the Xbox One X got down to like $250 in some instances, whereas the year before it was probably marked down to like $400 or something. So yes, revenue there definitely down. What's odd is Microsoft mentioned third parties being good the year before and not this past year, which tells me, and a lot of people are assuming that it had to do with Fortnite, and I think Fortnite slowed down a little bit over this past holiday. They had, it seems anyway, way more events and everything the year before, and that seems to be what they're pointing to, but the hardware is the biggest thing, and they even said it's going to continue downwards. Now, having better in terms of subscriptions, which is what Satya Nadella said in the conference call, that their services for their subscription numbers are up, which is good, like Xbox Live Game Pass, but we're to the point now where they are just slapping Game Pass with everything. There were even Pop-Tarts posted the other day on Twitter that Game Pass comes with. Yeah, you get some time with Game Pass if you buy Pop-Tarts. They're pretty much just putting it out there to inflate the numbers, hoping that going to next generation, people will stick with it with big releases, and then they will eventually profit from large subscription-based numbers. Just massive amounts, and then they can profit from them as they go along, and people forget that they're signed up to it. So that's kind of how it works with a lot of these service-based companies. So Microsoft is down pretty bad. It's not going to get much better throughout this year until that Series X launches, in which case their next holiday should be very, very good compared to this previous one. So we'll see what happens there, but at least for now, Microsoft is ready to take a bit of a hit on the gaming sector going forward. And we'll finish up with a comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from the Mega Gamer saying, the biggest money-making series is becoming even a bigger cash grab and continually getting more expensive for little reason except more money, fun. So this is talking about Pokemon with Pokemon Home and everything going on there. Now, Home did get more expensive. We talked about that. More than tripled the price. And you know what? I do look at Pokemon through nostalgia. I think like a lot of people do. It's what we've always known. But there are times where I look at that, especially as we've gotten a bit older now and we're kind of reflecting on it. And I do wonder if they're able to do a lot of this stuff because of that. Because it's Pokemon, it's the Pokemon company, it's Nintendo, it's Game Freak, it's companies we've grown up with. I wonder if EA tried to do this stuff, if they would get a lot of backlash for it, right? Like to the point where no one was on board with it. That's something I'm curious about, and I'll even ask you guys. Let's say the Pokemon company's structure here. 2 games, subscription to store your Pokemon or whatever EA would come up with, and all of that. DLC expansion passes, but 2 of them for each game, 1 for each game, technically. Do you think EA would get pushed back really badly for that? Because I feel like they would. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do here for Newswave. Enjoyed this video, guys. Hit the like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about today. Whether it is Microsoft's game with the Initiative, what do you think they're working on there? Because I am kind of leaning towards Perfect Dark, but I almost want to be surprised by something crazy that they're working on that maybe I forgot about and you guys can come up with there. And then also, what about Stadia? Is this it? Like, is Stadia done at this point? Because they made some promises earlier this year about getting some timed exclusive games, but even their own subreddit is turning on them, and that's bad because they were really gung-ho for Stadia up until, well, they realized that Stadia really wasn't doing much recently. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.